Localization. The appeal of iOS is global. iOS users live in many countries and speak many languages. Internationalization is making sure your native cultural information is not hard-coded into your application. Localization is the process of providing the appropriate data in your application based on the user's language and region format settings. You can find these settings in the iOS Settings application. In this chapter, you will first internationalize the word trotter application and then localize it into Spanish. Internationalization. In this first section, you will use the number formatter and NS number classes to internationalize the conversion view controller. Formatters. In conversion view controller, you use an instance of number formatter to set the text of the Celsius label. Number formatter has a locale property, which is set to the device's current locale. Even though the Celsius label is already internationalized, there is still a problem with it. Change the system region to span to C. Select the Active Scheme pop-up and select Edit Scheme. Make sure that Run is selected on the left-hand side, and then select the option types, and then select the options type at the top. In the application region pop-up, select Europol and Spain. Finally, close the Active Scheme window. Build and run the application. Change to the conversion view controller. You may already notice that difference. In Spain, the decimal separator is a comma instead of a period. Attempt to type in multiple decimal separators, the comma here, and notice that the application happily allows it. Now, let's fix that. Open Conversion View Controller Swift and update the text field should change character in method locale specific to use the locale specific decimal separator. Now, let's find the text field change method. In the new method implementation, first of all, we need to get the locale current value, and then we need to get the locale's decimal separator. If the decimal separator of this locale is not exist, then we return a dot to it. And then, before the new value of string is changed, we can find if there's an exist separator in the old string. If it existing text has decimal separator is true, then we do nothing. Else we can input the new separator in. Build and run the application. The application no longer allows you to type in multiple decimal separators, and it does this in a way that is independent of the user's region choice. Okay, let's try to input some more decimal separators. As you see, it is not being loaded, but there is still a problem. If you type in a number with a decimal separator that is not a period, the Celsius label displays question marks. This initializer does not know how to handle a string that uses something other than a period of its decimal separator. Let's fix this code using the number formatter class. In Conversion View Controller, update the Fahrenheit field editing change to convert the text field string into a number in a locale-independent way. Because the number formatter is aware of the locale, it is able to convert the string into a number. If the string contains a valid number, the method returns the instance of a NS number. You are doing that here to get the double value of the number. Build and run the application. Now that you are converting the string in a locale-independent way, the text field's value is properly converted to its Celsius value. Preparing for localization with the help of auto layout, string replacement is sufficient for most localization needs. Open main storyboard and click Adjust Editor Options and select the preview. The preview assistant allows you to easily see how your interface will look across screen sizes and orientations, as well as between different localized languages. In the storyboard, select the Conversion View controller to see its preview. Notice the control in the lower corners of the preview assistant. The Add button on the left side allows you to add an additional screen size for the preview canvas. Select and click the Delete button to remove the added ones. The button on the right side allows you to select a language to preview this interface in. Xcode supports a pseudo language for you. Pseudo languages help you internationalize your application before receiving translations for all of your strings and assets. Select the language pop-up that says English and choose double lines pseudo language. The labels all have their text doubled. The double lines pseudo language reveals a problem immediately. The labels go off both the left and the right edges of the screen, and you are able to read the entire strings. The fix is to constrain all of the labels so that their leading and trailing edges stay within the margins of their superview. Then you will need to change the line count for the labels to 0, which tells the labels that their text should wrap to multiple lines if needed. Select the label and open its Attributes Inspector. Change the lines count to 0, and set the lines count of other labels to 0 too. In the canvas, select the degree Fahrenheit label. You are going to add constraints to this label in a new way. You will start by fixing one label, then repeat the steps for the rest of the labels. Control drag from the label to the left side of the superview. When you do, a context-sensitive pop-up will appear, giving you the constraints that make sense for this direction. Select the leading space to safe area from the list. Now take a look at the preview assistant. The label is no longer being truncated, and instead the text flows to a second line. Because the other labels are each related to the label above them, they have automatically been moved down. Repeat the steps above for the other labels. At this point, you are done with the preview assistant. You can close the assistant editor now. Localization. Localize storyboard. Now it's time to localize the app, that is to update the strings and resources in the application for a new language. Start by localizing storyboard file. Select the main storyboard in the project navigator. Open the file inspector. Find the section in this inspector named localization. Check the English box and make sure the drop-down says localize strings. This will create the strings table that will be used later to localize the application. Next, in the project navigator, select the Word Trotter project at the top, then select Word Trotter under the project session in the side list, and make sure the Info tab is open. Click Add button under the localizations and select the Spanish ES. Make sure that the reference language is base and the file type is localizable strings. Then click Finish. Look in the project navigator. Click the Disclosure button next to main.storyboard. Click on the Spanish version of main.strings. When this file opens, the text is not Spanish. You have to translate the localized files yourself. Xcode is not that smart. Now, let's translate them one by one. Translate the degree, mapper, and another degree. Okay. Now that you have finished localizing this storyboard file, open Edit Scheme. Select Spanish as the application language and Spain as the application region. Build and run the application. Make sure you are viewing the conversion view controller and you will see the interface in Spanish. NS localized string and strings tables. In many places in your application, you create a string instance dynamically or display strings literals to the user. To display translated versions of these strings, you must create a strings table. A strings table is a file containing a list of key value pairs for all of the strings that your application uses and their associated translations. Now you are going to internationalize the strings that the map view controller displays in its segmented control. In mapViewController.swift, locate the loadView method and update the initializer for the segmented control to use localized strings. Once you have files that have been internationalized with the NS localized string function, you can generate strings tables with a command line application. Strings mapViewController.swift. The resulting file, localizable strings, contains the strings from mapViewController. Add this file to Word Trotter. Open its file inspector and click the Localize button in the utility area. Make sure English is selected from the pop-up and click Localize. Add the Spanish localization by checking the box next to each language. Notice that the comment above your string is the second argument you supplied to the NS localized string function. You need to change the text on the right-hand side to the Spanish translations. Build and run the application again. Now all these strings, including the titles in the segmented control, will appear in Spanish. Congratulations! You have completed an international app.